This is Module 11, Lesson 3, and it's called Find the Distance on the Coordinate Plane. So we're taking what we've done from the last two lessons, and now we're finding the distance. Yes, you can count them, but I'm going to teach you other ways to do it besides just counting the distance. So let's take a look up here at the top. You can find the distance between the two endpoints of a horizontal or vertical line segment on the coordinate plane by finding their distance from the x or y axis using absolute values. Remember, absolute values are these long lines that go on either side of the number. It means the distance that number is from 0 on the number line. The absolute value of a number is the distance from 0 on the number line, which I just said. Let's look at this first example. It's done all the way for you already. I'm going to zoom in just a little bit more so we can see it a lot better. Point A is -4, 2. So if I look right here, that means I ran backwards to -4 and I jumped to 2. Point B right here is at 1, 2. So I ran to 1 and jumped to 2. Notice that A and B have the same y coordinates. That means that the second number in this, I should not have done black. Hold on 1 second. Let me get that changed. Go to yellow. The second number on both of them are 2. That means that is the second one, so that is the y. The second number represents the y-axis, which is the y coordinate. The first one is x's, but in this case, both of these are y. So let's look down at B. Because A and B have the same y coordinate, they are aligned horizontally. So if you look, this is horizontally going this way if you see my mouse going back and forth. Draw a line segment connecting the 2 points. So I'm going to draw a line from A to B. Since the absolute value of -4 is 4, and they got this from this right here. And they say to find up here, remember it told us to be able to find it, we have to find the absolute value. So the absolute value of -4 is 4. The distance from point A to the y-axis, so from here to here is 4. And then for point B, we're going to find the absolute value of 1. 1, because if you look at the other ordered pair where B is at, it's 1. So the absolute value of 1 is 1. I then will take 4 plus 1, which is right here, and we get 5. C. Point C is at 3, 4. So C is right here. I ran to 3, I jumped to 4. Point D is at 3, -4. So I ran to 3 and I fell down 4. They are aligned vertically because they go up and down like this. We're going to draw a line segment. Connecting the points. We're going to find the distance from the x-axis. So if I look at my numbers this time, the first ones, which are the x's, are the same. So we're not going to look at those. We're going to look at the y. So if I look at my y, I have a 4 and a -4. So I'm going to take that 4 from point C and I'm going to find the absolute value of 4. The absolute value of 4 is 4. So from C to here is 4 spots. Point D, I'm taking the absolute value of -4 because that is how many I fell down. The absolute value of -4 is 4. So I'm going to take, that means from here down is 4. I'm going to add these two together and I get 8, which is just what they got there. Let's take a look down here and we're going to try it ourselves this time. A point on a coordinate plane can be reflected across an axis. The reflection is located on the opposite side of the axis at the same distance from the axis. We're going to determine the distance between landmarks on this. Each unit of the coordinate plane corresponds to 1 kilometer. The train station and the library. So let's figure out the train station and the library. Train station is right here. So to get to the train station, I ran to 4, I jumped to 4. I'm just going to put that right above it so I know my ordered pair. And then the library, I ran to 4 and I fell to -3. So 4, -3. Our next step is determining if we're going to use the X or the Y numbers in our ordered pair. If I look at this, my first ones, I have 4 and 4. That is the same because we're going up and down here. So we're not using those ones. We are going to be using our Y's. I have 4 and -3. Those are different numbers. So I'm going to find the absolute value of those two numbers. So I'm going to take that one down. The absolute value of 4 is 4. Then remember this is a -3. I'm going to move this down. The absolute value of -3 equals 3. Next step is taking these two and add them together. So 4 plus 3 is 7. So the distance between the train station and the library is 7. And remember they told us to use kms. Hopefully you're able to fit this all right in there nice and neat. Now, because it's just counting doing ones, you could count this to make sure we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So we're right. Let's look at the next one. Train station and the market. I already know the train station is 4, 4, because we did that in the last one. But let's take a look at the market. The market, I run back to -4 and I jump to 4. So -4, 4. This time, let's take a look to see what we got. Let's look at our x's. I have a 4 and a -4. So those are the different ones, and so that's what we're going to find the absolute value of. So we're going to take the train station 4. The absolute value of 4 is 4. We're going to take -4, and we're going to say the absolute value of -4 equals 4. We're then going to take those two, and we're going to add them together to find the distance. So 4 plus 4 is 8 kms. Let's count them to make sure. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So we're right. And then our last one, library and the school. We did library already up here, so I'm just going to rewrite our ordered pair from up here from the library. Our library was at 4, -3. Let's find the school. The school's down here. So we ran backwards to 7 and fell down to -3. So -7, -3. Our next step, remember, is to figure out if we're going to use the first numbers in the set, which are the x coordinates, or the second number in the set, which are the y coordinates. So I'm going to highlight my first ones. Oh, and look, they're different. We have 4 and -7. So those are the numbers we're going to be dealing with right here. So the absolute value of 4 equals 4. And then we're going to take the absolute value of 7, -7, I'm sorry. That equals 7. I'm going to take these two numbers, I'm going to add them together. So 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So 11 km. Let's count them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So that is our answer. The whole reason we're finding out how to do these is because they're not always going to be this simple to look at. There's going to be decimals, there's going to be fractions. They're going to be counting by more than just ones going up. And by knowing how to do it at this basic level, it's setting your foundation to be able to do it at the harder levels. Let's flip our page to the next one and we're going to zoom in. Okay. What is the distance between the 2 points on the coordinate plane measured by units of the coordinate plane? So first, what we have to do is we are going to plot some points here, which is right here. Plot and label points F, which is 3, 6. So I'm going to run to 3 and jump to 6. And I'm labeling it F. I'm going to check it off so I know I did it. Our next one's G. I'm going to run to 3, and I fall down to -2. So we have a G, and I did that. The x-coordinate of point F is, so if I look, the first number, I kind of did, there we go. Our first number, which is the x, is 3. Which is the same as the x-coordinate of G. They are both 3. We're going to draw a line segment that connects the 2 points. So from F to G, a line segment means there's an endpoint on each of them and it does not continue. The distance between point F and the point where the line intersects the x-axis. I'm going to change my color here so we can see it. So point F, and then the x-axis is all the way down there. So to get from 6 to here, so 0 to 6, that's going to be 6. What is the absolute value of the y-coordinate of point F? The y-coordinate, if you look right up here, is 6. The absolute value of 6 equals 6, which is good because that's how many we counted going up. What is the distance between G and the x-axis? So I'm going to look here. I'm going to go up. That's 2. What is the absolute value of the y-coordinate of point G? So if I look at here, this is -2. The absolute value of -2 is 2, which is good because we counted 2. What do you notice about the absolute value of each point's y-coordinate and the distance of the point to the x-axis? They're the same. The points aren't in the same quadrant. F is in quadrant 1, G is in quadrant 4. Because the points are in different quadrants, you need to add the absolute values of the points' y-coordinates to find the distance. So I'm going to take 2 plus 6. So the distance is 8. And remember, that was a lot of steps, but in actuality, we're going to go a lot quicker than this. Amy is making a map. She wants to reflect point -6,5 across the y-axis. What are the coordinates of its reflection? So we haven't done this without a graph yet. So we're going to take this nice and easy. So a reflection. It's like when you're looking in the mirror, you kind of see like the reflection of your face on it. So if I draw just like a little tiny graph to help me out, the y is right here, the x is right here. So -6,5. Remember, -6,5 would be over in this area. If we acted like this was paint and we folded it across, it would come over here. So anytime we reflect across the y, the sign on the x changes. So we would be at 6, 5. Anytime we reflect across the x, the sign on the y changes. So let's take a look at the next one. Are the points 80, -75, and -35, -75 in the same quadrant or different? I know they're in different quadrants because this one's positive, negative, and this is negative, negative. What is the distance between the points? So let's look at our our numbers here. For the x, we have 80 and -35. So those are the ones we're looking at. So I have the absolute value of 80 equals 80. The absolute value of -35 is 35. And we're going to add those together. So I have 115. That is the distance between them. If you want to be fancy, you can label it with units. We added them because they're in different quadrants. When they're in the same quadrant, we have to subtract them. And we'll do some examples on that coming up. Are the points, let me make this a little, slide this over just a little bit for us. There we go. Are the points -4, -10, and -4, -2 in the same quadrant? These ones are in the same quadrant because I know they're in the third quadrant because they're both numbers are negative on each. What is the distance between the points? So in this case, if we look, we have -4, -4. So we're not dealing with the x. We're going to deal with the y. We have -10 and -2. Let's find our absolute value. The absolute value of -10 is 10. The absolute value of -2 is 2. Now, in this case, since they're in the same quadrant, we are subtracting them because we're not going past an access line to add more onto it. So 10 minus 2 is 8 units. Let's check your understanding and see what you remember. We look at that. I already put that for your check understanding back. So when we actually do this in class, I will tell you to do the check understanding back there. But that is fine. Okay, what do you remember? Remember, you're going to try this by yourself and then see how you did. Okay, so we're going to use this coordinate plane to answer these questions. Name 2 points that have the same y coordinate. So if I look, if I run to 2 and jump to 3, that's what that one would be. This one I'm running to 6 and I'm jumping to 3. Both of these have the same y coordinate. So R and T have the same y. If I look down here, these ones have the same y also because their y is both -3. It just said we had to name 2 though, so I'm going to move on. What is the distance between point S and T? So S and T are right here. I know to get from here to here, that's 1, 2, 3. So the absolute value of 3 is 3. To get from S to the line right here, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So because we're down at -5, so the absolute value of -5 is 5. 5 plus 3 is 8. So 8 units. And we added them because they were in different quadrants. So no, they are not in the same quadrant. What is the distance between points R and T? So to get to R to T, I'm just going to count on this one because we're in the same quadrant. 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 units. Are they in the same quadrant? Yes, they are. And our last question that goes along with this, what is the distance between Q and U? So Q and U are right here. We have 1, 2, 3 units. Are they in the same quadrant? Yes. Besides just counting, I'm going to show you the other way to do it on these. I run to -4, I fall to -5. So -4, -5. Here I run to -1 and I fall to -5. So we're looking at the absolute value of -4 and the absolute value of -1. So 4 plus this one is -1 equals 3. We are subtracting because we're in the same quadrant. Okay, and this is a good table to get the reflections of the x and the y axis down. Anytime we go across the x, all we're doing is changing the sign on the y. So our x stays the same, but instead of -5, we'll have 5. And I'm going to go ahead and do all the x's first. And so anytime we go across the x stays the same, but the sign on the y changes. So instead of -3, we have 3. On this one, again, we have -4. but the sign on the second one changes. So instead of +1, it's -1. And our last one on the side, we have 1, and then the 9 changes to -9. On the side over here, we're going to reflect across the y. When we reflect across the y, the sign on the x changes. So instead of +2, we have -2, and our y stays the same. Next one, -6, -3. The -6 changes to 6 because when we reflect across the y, the sign on the x changes. The y stays the same. -4 is going to change to 4 because the x changes when we go across the y, but the y stays the same. And our last one, instead of 1, it's going to be -1 because the x changes signs and the y stays the same. I'm pretty sure that's the last thing on that one. It is, so that's all there is for that lesson.